Welcome to Curriculum Instruction, Course 6352, Supervision and Leadership in Curriculum and Instruction. I'm your professor, Dr. Horton. This course will guide the exemplary professional educator in examining research related to the effective supervision of curriculum and instruction at the school, district, and systems level. By the end of the course, students will establish and support a school district culture that promotes learning, high expectations, and academic rigor for self, students, and teaching staff. Facilitate the development and implementation of a shared vision that focuses on teaching and learning. Implement strategies to enhance professional capabilities at the school district and campus levels to ensure support for a continuum of services and programming. Deliver effective presentations and facilitate the learning of both small and large groups. Demonstrate use of school district and staff evaluation data for personal policy development and decision making. Demonstrate and apply knowledge of certification requirements and standards. Develop and implement collaborative processes for the systematic assessment and renewal of the curriculum to ensure appropriate scope, sequence, content, and alignment. Evaluate and provide direction for improving school district curriculum in ways that are based upon sound research-based practices. Facilitate the use of creative, critical thinking, and problem-solving tools by staff and other school district stakeholders. And facilitate the development of a learning organization that supports instructional improvement, builds and implements an appropriate curriculum, and incorporates best practices. The textbooks that we'll be using in this course: APA 6th edition, Gale and Ackerson's Clinical Supervision and Teacher Development, Pre-Services and In-Service Applications, Sergiovanni, Starlett, and Chow, Supervision, a Redefinition, the 2014 edition. Grades will be calculated using the action plan worth 100, discussion board posts, an interview assignment, reflections, there will be 2, supervision assignment, teacher leadership plan, teacher training, and 3 quizzes, for a total of 1,000 points. For this week's assignment, you will need to complete the readings of Chapter 1 for both books and complete Week 1 discussion posts. As you read through Chapter 1 in both books, really pay attention to the themes that are being presented. Look at the role of supervision in terms of who's doing it, what are the communication patterns that are being employed. But before we get into any of that, I want to go ahead and start a short little video, and then after the video I'll be back to talk about some upcoming assignments that you'll be working on over the course of the semester.
Kim has been a leading authority on synthesizing the latest and best research from over 60 journals every week. It is the best value in education and a way to start a great faculty meeting, to keep yourself on top of latest trends and research, even when you don't have time to read a lot of the journal articles that are out there. In addition, Kim is the author of a number of books, but perhaps most relevant to this discussion is Rethinking Teacher Supervision and Evaluation, published by Jossy Bass, now in its 2nd edition. And you'll find in that book a number of really thoughtful ideas based on Kim's extensive experience as a urban school principal, as well as a leadership coach around the United States. So Kim, welcome to the webinar.
Thank you, and it's a lovely day here in Boston. We finally got some spring in the air. I want to just quickly tell the story of how I got into this. As a principal in Boston, elementary school principal, I was using the conventional approach to teacher supervision and evaluation, making extensive notes and talking to teachers, talking them through them, and writing up a great narrative. And I was very good at that, but really came to believe after a few years that it was not very productive, and began casting around for a better way. One of our teachers suggested a different approach, and I tried it and ended up using it successfully for 9 years. And then started writing about it, giving workshops on it. And so this is just a very brief kind of overview, and I hope you'll react as we go along. Shoot your questions in to Doug, who will relay them to me. And by the way, I noticed I have the date wrong on our slides here. It's actually May 2nd now, right? So sorry about that. So here are the big questions I want to address. Is what's wrong with the traditional system, the system that I was trained in and many of you were trained in? And isn't there some new thinking out there? And indeed there is. What's the alternative that I'm suggesting, the alternative that I stumbled across as a principal in Boston and have now refined to quite a system that's being used in many places around the country? Rubrics. How do rubrics fit into this idea of short, frequent, unannounced classroom visits, which I'm going to present? Because rubrics are kind of a different animal than the observations of classrooms. So how are they being used, and how should they be used? What about research? What does the research say about new approaches to evaluation of teachers? And then the question that comes up quite a lot in my consulting and travels around the country is, okay, lovely idea, but it's too hard. It's too hard for many principals. They don't have the ability to do this. So those are the questions I'm going to attack. So we should be advancing here. Sorry. Okay, there we go. So what is wrong with the traditional system? I have three major criticisms of it, and I believe these are really sort of built-in design flaws that can't be overcome through any amount of training. The first is how long each evaluation takes. Done right, the traditional system involves a pre-observation conference, a full lesson observation with extensive note-taking, then a write-up or a scoring on a rubric, and then a post-observation conference. Really 4 hours if it's done right. And that's a lot of time, which means that it's going to happen very infrequently, perhaps once or twice a year. Second design flaw is that because of the pre-observation conference, in most cases, the observation is announced in advance, which means that the teacher, being a normal human being, is going to put on the best possible show. It's just, it's a natural thing. Of course, you would put some extra effort into this, what is sometimes called the dog and pony show. And that means that the principal is seeing, or the assistant principal or department head is seeing, not typical daily performance, but atypical optimal performance, which is lovely for the teacher if it goes well. It's very nervous making because you got to get ready for it, and if it goes poorly, then that's your big chance. But it doesn't tell the principal the most important thing, which is what's happening on a daily basis, because that, of course, is what drives student achievement and everything else. And then the third criticism I have, this sort of design flaw, is that if the principal does it well, the administrator does the job well, they're going to be providing an overwhelming amount of feedback. And no athletic coach would work that way. No driver ed teacher would work that way. It's simply not the way you coach somebody, is to give them a huge amount of information once a year. So those are the design flaws. And that means that it's really not going to be productive. And indeed, if you look at the research, as I have over the last 40 years on effective schools, you never, ever see teacher evaluation mentioned as one of the key drivers of school improvement. And that's because it is basically inert. It's not really helping. A principal in Long Island said to me a few years ago, every time I do an evaluation, it takes me out of the game for 4 hours. So he had the right idea. So here's sort of a graphic way of looking at this. There's a fork in the road that administrators have to take. Are they going to take the left fork, which is evidence, evaluation, and compliance, basically kind of a bureaucratic process? Or can we somehow figure out to take the right fork, which is actually using this process to improve teaching and learning? And given a choice, Robert Marzano talks about this frequently, given a choice, everyone wants to take the right fork. Everyone wants to be improving teaching and learning. But the way the process has been implemented over these 50 years, it's largely the left fork. It's largely evidence, evaluation, compliance. I was with someone a couple of weeks ago up in Maine who said, he literally says to teachers, look, this is a waste of time. I know this is a waste of time. Let's just get it over with. So one of the most damning pieces of research on this was the widget effect study done a few years ago by the New Teacher Project that showed in Chicago at this point, this 5-year period from 2003 to 2008, look at the ratings of teachers in the Chicago public schools on a 4-point scale. Now, I have to tell you, I've been in a lot of Chicago schools in my coaching work 15 years ago, and this is not accurate. So how could this happen? How could you have this skewed statistical picture here? It's because, of course, people are putting on their best show, and principals are perhaps avoiding difficult conversations and giving these excellent ratings. Here's Elgin, Illinois, with the 3-point evaluation scale, similar distortion. And here's Denver, which at that point had a 2-point evaluation score. Again, similar distortion. Very, very few teachers being negatively evaluated. Now, I'm not saying there are a lot that are horrible. I think there are very few really bad teachers in the business. But these stats are just way, way off.
Over the next 16 weeks, you're going to have a number of assignments that are going to be coming due. I want to take a few minutes and talk a little bit about some of the more in-depth projects that you're going to need to complete. And so let's go ahead and start with week number 4. This is your teacher training assignment in which you are going to develop a teacher training session for a group of teachers who are new to your school or district. The training should be related to something that they will be expected to implement or utilize as they assume their new roles. Develop a plan similar to a lesson plan for the training to include objectives, activities, assessments, and so forth that will be used during the training. Also list any references that support your training at the bottom of your plan. Supply any handouts that would be used during the training. Also include an evaluation instrument that you would provide those who attend to provide you with feedback on your session. Create a Screencast-O-Matic or Screencast-ify or some other multimedia tool that captures audio and video and provide me with a 10 to 15 minute overview of your training session. That explains such things as why the topic will be important for new teachers, the objective of your training, the activities and learning activities, how you will monitor the progress of teachers towards mastering the objective or objectives, and explanation of the information that you include on your feedback form. Upload your presentation to YouTube and provide me with a link, as well as turn in your lesson plan, any relevant handouts, and the feedback tool that your participants will complete at the end of the training. Think of professional development sessions that you may have attended on your own. You're using that to kind of formulate how you want to do this, and when you're providing me with the handouts, you can walk step by step on how you'd be presenting the information, the themes that you'd be covering. You don't actually have to do a professional development session and record it, just kind of giving me an overview of it. This specific assignment will be graded based upon the following, and you will have access to the rubrics when the assignment becomes live. But what I'm looking for is the training objectives should be based upon Bloom's taxonomy, your oral presentation, as well as visual presentation and handouts. Please make sure you're referencing using your APA, and then also evaluation instruments, how you're assessing whether or not you did a good job, primarily looking at your feedback from the audience. For week 8, you are going to be completing a teacher and administrator interview. You're going to interview one teacher with 5 or more years of experience and one administrator with 5 or more years of experience. The greater the years of experience, the more the teacher administrator will be able to reflect on their experiences. You're going to develop a list of 8 to 10 questions that you will pose to each educator that you interview. The questions should be related to supervision, curriculum, and assessment, including views of teachers and administrators on understanding the teacher evaluation system in their district. Include questions that inquire about their views of how teacher evaluations are used for renewal and non-renewal or contracts or merit pay, driving future professional development. Based on the information from the interviews, write a 3-section paper that includes a section of information gathered from the teacher, a section for information gathered from the administrator, and a final section that synthesizes the information within our textbooks and additional literature related to teacher evaluation. You do need a minimum of at least 5 sources to be able to accurately make these reflections. For this assignment, I will be using the following rubric, and again, it will become live. This is partially cut off, but it will become live once the assignment is available. But the components are, you're going to report the findings from both the teacher and administrator, including experiences with evaluation, as well as policy and personal decisions related to teacher evaluation. We're also looking at the quantity and quality of the questions that you're going to ask them. Basing writing expectations, we're going to be looking at your mechanics, the spelling, the grammar, punctuation errors, and so forth. And then also make sure that you are referencing using APA format. That's going to be very important. Going into week 12, you are going to do an action plan assignment. This activity is based upon a scenario where you become a supervisor in a school or district where there is a vast disparity between the teacher evaluations earned by teachers and the results from state assessments for a specific grade level or department. Your analysis determines that the student's performance in this department or grade is well below state averages, while all teachers earned accomplished or distinguished evaluations from the Texas Teacher Evaluation and Support or T-Test over the past 3 years. You've determined that this is the only grade level or department that has this vast disparity between the two measurements, that this inconsistency has existed for more than 3 years, and that the teaching faculty and administrators who have evaluated these teachers has remained constant. You identify the above scenario in June, and over the next 2 years, you plan to bring the two measurements in better alignment. Develop a short paper based on literature that addresses the topic of correlating student achievement with teacher evaluations. Then develop a timeline of events over a 2-year period that strives to eliminate this disparity within your district. Include in your timeline such items as how this initiative would be shared with teachers and those who evaluate the teachers, professional development activities that would support improvement in both instruction and quality of evaluation, formative measurements that would be used to see if this misalignment was diminishing, and a summative evaluation that would judge how much improvement, if any, has been made to eliminate this disparity after 2 years. The rubric that will be used is as following: timeline sequencing of the events, a narrative overview, in other words, a maximum of 4 pages, a formative summative evaluation, and also again references in APA format. For week 14, you're going to create a teacher leadership plan. 30 years ago, teacher salary schedules were structured where teachers with 25 or more years of experience would earn twice the salary of a beginning teacher. Also, earning a master's degree while teaching might result in a 5% increase in your annual salary. In 2020, salary schedules have been restructured to maximize beginning pay, but with nominal financial incentives for teachers to remain in their roles for their entire career. Thus, many teachers who need to earn additional financial compensation after entering the profession may choose to leave the profession for higher paying jobs. For those who stay in the profession, some may choose to move into administration simply to earn more pay. Based on the information above, assume that you are in a district facing higher than average teacher turnover and with an average experience level of remaining teachers that is significantly below the state average. Based on this situation, you want to create a plan that will incentivize teachers remaining in the profession. Your plan should include both financial incentives related to remaining in their primary position of a classroom position, but also provide the opportunities for various leadership roles that teachers can serve in that result in their providing expertise and guidance for other teachers. Your paper should be supported by promising practicing that are being used in public schools in various parts of the country, as well as ideas that you feel would best work in the unique setting where you are hypothetically leading. Think of the TAP program that we looked at, or that we will be looking at in the weeks to come. The rubric that will be used for this one is as follows. Again, clearly organized introduction, body, and conclusion. Does the paper create multiple avenues for leadership roles and various incentives for fulfilling each or such roles? Does this paper show evidence of deep thought about the topic? Again, basic writing expectations, mechanics, spelling, grammar, or punctuation errors, and references using the APA format. And then in week 16, this will be the last major project, and again, that last week, you are going to be completing the supervision assignment. You have spent the semester studying supervision of curriculum, instruction, and assessment. You have reviewed various concepts that are related to the connectiveness of students, instructional staff, and supervisors to curriculum, instruction, and assessment. At this point, you should be able to synthesize your new information and formulate a vision for how curriculum, instruction, and assessment should function in a perfect state. For example, consider such things as how should curriculum be developed when taking the needs of students into account? How much autonomy, guidance, training, so forth should there be for teachers in their roles as instructors in the delivery of the curriculum? What role should the supervisor play in setting guidelines for assessment that are locally implemented? In short, through a research paper and an audio-video presentation, articulate a shared school vision for a specific site, learning organization in the 21st century that identifies specific desired outcomes for themselves as school leaders, the teaching staff, and student population. The audio-visual presentation should be a maximum of 12 minutes and should stimulate or simulate your sharing your vision on this topic with a group of educators who you will supervise over a school's or district's curriculum, instruction, and assessment systems. The rubric that will be used for this assignment consists of the following. Your title page with running head, abstract, your page, how are you numbering your pages, main heading and subheadings, correct number of references, citation references, a vision statement, information regarding your school leaders, instructional staff, and students, the author's view corresponding with research on school leaders, the author's view corresponding with literature on instructional staff, author's view corresponding with literature on students. The oral visual presentation should consist of your voice, the language, visual product, the organization, the knowledge, and the graphics. All of those things are being taken into consideration for these projects. That's a lot of information, and I understand that. I tried to give you the deadlines for everything a little bit ahead of time and break down the assignments so that you at least knew what was due and when. You have plenty of time to work on those. I tried to also coordinate the schedule so that way you weren't being loaded up in any particular week. If you have questions as we're going through the process, feel free to reach out to me. I am looking at scheduling a Google Hangout session on week 3, so that way if you have any questions and you want to pop in and ask me a question, if you can't make that, you can also email me and let me know your questions, or if you need to, you can email me and ask me if I can set up a time so that way you can check in if you have any questions about any of those assignments. But I will also be posting a reminder of each of those assignments the week before they're due. So as you're looking at the little video clips kind of highlighting what's been covered so far, you will see a reminder as to what is due. Let me know if you have any questions. Again, feel free to reach out. One reminder is as you are doing your discussion post, please make sure that you are responding to your classmates. You don't have to respond to everyone, but there's a certain number. I've also attached a rubric kind of going through what are the requirements for making your post. You'll find for each of those assignments, the rubrics are included as well. Until next week, talk to you later.